Maria Bartholdi joined by Simon Görtzen to talk about my favorite tribe in Ixalan, vampires. All right, Simon, give us a wide-eye view of why is vampires good and what is it looking to do?
Vampires is good for many reasons. It is a highly linear, synergistic deck, and it doesn't compete with another tribe or color combination. So if you are white-black vampires, there's no other person that's really taking your cards away from you. And what's interesting is that it is an aggressive archetype, just like any other deck in the format, but you're kind of trying to get that critical mass of vampires onto the battlefield. So different from other decks, maybe you're actually trying to not trade your creatures in the early game because later on they will be more than just a 1/1 lifelink token. They will be 3/1 lifelink, or they will enable certain triggers to just be more powerful. We do also have this life gain sub-theme in the vampires archetype. Paying life can be something really valuable.
Using your life as a resource, going wide, and those late game payoffs. Well, let's take a look at kind of what an average to pretty good vampires deck would look like. We're going to start off taking a look at our 1-drops. This is what we're looking for. Vampire Zeal, Skullduggery. Why do you want these cards?
Well, combo tricks are just really, really good in Ixalan overall. Skullduggery, every black deck wants to have. Vampire Zeal, however, is much better if you can target a vampire.
Oh, yeah.
The first strike makes a big difference. So this is just something that allows you to survive in the early game and also pairs really nicely with lifelink. Growing your creatures, protecting them from removal, and gaining life in the process can be a huge swing.
How do you feel about Skullduggery in vampires versus something like a pirates deck where you might think it's more at home?
I think it's much more important in pirates because there you are often forced to attack, to enter combats because of raid. In vampires, like I said, if you spend a turn not attacking and not blocking, which is a sin in other
Yes.
decks, in limited, you're actually not too unhappy.
All right, let's take a look at our 2-drops, and this is kind of what we've seen a lot of pro players this weekend really prioritizing. We've got a couple copies of Queen's Bay Soldier, Skyblade of the Legion, 2 Bishop Soldier, and an Adanto Vanguard. So what stands out to you here is something that you're just like, make sure you're grabbing these as they go around the table?
So Adanto Vanguard is the most powerful 2-drop in that list, but what stands out to me is Bishop Soldier. It is 2 mana, 2/2 lifelink, and that makes it almost, well, it does make it strictly better than Queen's Bay Soldier if we ignore the color. It's also much better than Skyblade of the Legion. So if we are looking at a format where we are saying 2-drops are super important, then you want to be the one with the best 2-drops. And Bishop Soldier, for that reason, is one of the best white commons overall.
It's so good when you're playing against it. Sometimes you just throw your hands up and you're like, how am I so worried about this 2/2 with lifelink?
It basically tells you, if you want to erase me, you're just going to lose. So you have to stay back with whatever creatures you played because the risk of just this tiny 2-drop creating a huge life swing is too high.
All right, well, let's take a look at our 3-drops here. Inspiring Cleric, Deadeye Tormentor, kind of a pirate card there, Skymarch Bloodletter, Queen's Commission, and Vanquish the Weak. Now, a lot of people love Skymarch Bloodletter, myself included. Why?
It's one of the few evasive threats in the Vampires deck that does allow you to play more of a racing game than just to say, okay, I'm waiting for my payoff cards, I'm waiting. No, this one is draining the opponent, so it supports the whole game plan. It does enable a raid. You do have raid cards often also in your black-white decks. And Skymarch Bloodletter is just a really, really good package.
How many Vanquish the Weeks are you hoping to pick up in a Vampires deck?
I think there is hardly a number of Vanquish the Weeks that is too high. No, honestly, if you have 3 of them, you know you can just waste one on an early drop, but you still have 2 great removal spells in the late game.
Let's move on to our 4-drops here. Paladin of the Bloodstained is going to make you a token, and we said before, kind of a go-wide strategy. This is my ultimate #1 favorite card in the set, Sanctum Seeker here at Rare. Here's some more tokens in Call to the Feast and removal and Pious Interdiction. What do you want to call out here just in the 4-drops is something that you're ultimately looking for?
So Pious Interdiction is good in any white deck, of course. The creatures are really important because you can see how keeping things around is really the payoff for vampires. You do get more creatures than one with a single card. Queen's Commission, Paladin of the Bloodstained, create 2 creatures. And then Sanctum Seeker is something which is much better if you have 6 vampires than just 1 or 2.
Yeah, we saw Sanctum Seeker doing some work there in the feature match area last round. That was super fun. All right, here's our 5-drops. Talk about payoff cards, because here comes Anointed Deacon in our 5-drop slot. Why is this so critical?
You asked me before how many Vanquish the Weeks do I want, but to me the more interesting question is how many Anointed Deacons do I want?
Sure, how many?
I think if you are drafting vampires, you should maximize Anointed Deacon. Basically, every pick you make is how good is this card without Anointed Deacon, how good is it with Anointed Deacon? And often the answer is, if I have 3 Anointed Deacons in my deck, I can prioritize certain cards just because of that.
Like Skyblade of the Legion, for instance.
Exactly. If you don't have Anointed Deacon, you're not excited about this card. If you have it, every one of these cards just gains so much value.
And there's a Bishop of the Bloodstained, which is just kind of like, if you get it, that's great. It's not critical. Let's look at our 6-drop here. We have a 1 of Queen's Agent. How do you like this card?
Well, this has, first off, at the beginning of the format, it didn't look like much, but we see it be played more and more. Often it's a 4/4 lifelink, and this kind of dominating the race with life gain is something that the Vampires deck is superb at. So I like this 6-drop a lot, and we are seeing it in almost all Vampire decks.
All right, well, thank you so much, Simon Görtzen. This is a look at white-black vampires. Go home and draft it. It's my favorite tribe. More magic after this.